Queen Zyrelia stood at the massive viewing window of her royal chambers, gazing out at the 3 moons that orbited her homeworld. The soft purple light bathed her iridescent scales, making them shimmer in the darkness of her room. She ran at the slender, 6-fingered hand over the ancient book on her desk. The book contained stories so old that most of her people had forgotten them, but not Zyrelia. She had always been drawn to the legends of old, especially those about the mysterious. Beings called humans. The Tailies described creatures from a distant blue planet who looked fragile but possessed strength beyond understanding. They were said to have soft skin instead of protective scales or exoskeletons, no natural weapons like claws or venom, and relatively weak senses. By all accounts, they should have been easy prey for the many predators of the galaxy. Yet the legends painted them as fierce warriors who could fight through pain that would kill most species, heal from terrible wounds, and continue fighting despite overwhelming odds. "Your Majesty," a voice called from the doorway. "The council awaits." Zyrelia closed the book with a sigh. "Thank you, Vex. I will join them shortly." As her assistant left, Zyrelia placed the book back on its shelf. Such stories were considered childish by most Valdorians, especially those in her royal council. Her empire spanned 3 galaxies, with technology that could bend reality itself. They had encountered thousands of species during their expansion, but none matched the description of these legendary humans. Most scholars believed they were simply myths, cautionary tales to keep young Valdorians obedient. Even Zyrelia, with her scholarly interest, had to admit the stories seemed far-fetched. How could beings so physically unimpressive inspire such fearsome legends? Still, she wondered. The Grand Council chamber fell silent as Zyrelia entered. 12 of her most trusted advisors rose from their seats, bowing their heads in respect. The Queen took her place at the head of the crystalline table, which glowed softly from within. "What news demands my attention today?" she asked, her voice calm and measured as always. General Krex, the head of her military forces, stepped forward. His scales were dark and scarred from many battles, and the crest on his head flared slightly, a sign of agitation. "Your Majesty, we have lost contact with Commander Zeth's reconnaissance fleet in Sector 37B of the Outer Rim." Murmurs filled the chamber. A lost scout ship was concerning, but an entire fleet was unprecedented. What was their last communication? Zyrelia asked, leaning forward. The general pressed a button on his wrist device, and a hologram appeared above the table. The flickering image showed Commander Zeth, his eyes wide with what looked like fear, an emotion rarely seen in Valdorian. "Warriors, we have encountered a vessel of unknown origin." Zeth's voice crackled through the static. "Design is primitive, but our weapons had no effect. They responded to our warning shots with some kind of energy weapon we've never seen before. 3 ships already lost." Requesting immediate, the transmission cut off abruptly. Silence filled the council chamber. "When was this received?" Zyrelia asked. 2 cycles ago, General Krex replied. "We sent 2 more fleets to investigate. They found nothing, no debris, no signs of battle, and no trace of the unknown vessel." Zyrelia's mind raced back to the legends in her book. Could it be? After all this time? "Your Majesty," said Advisor Laura, the oldest member of her council, "this is clearly an act of aggression against the Valdorian Empire. We must respond with force." Others nodded in agreement, but Zyrelia raised her hand for silence. "We know nothing about this new species," she said. Commander Zeth fired first. "Perhaps they merely defended themselves." "With respect, Your Majesty," General Krex argued, "any species capable of destroying our most advanced fleet poses a serious threat. We should assemble the armada and show our strength before they mistake our restraint for weakness." Zyrelia closed her eyes briefly, considering her options. War had been rare during her 200-year reign. The Valdorian Empire was so powerful that most species chose diplomacy or surrender rather than conflict. But something about this situation felt different. "No," she said finally. "I will not rush into war based on fear and incomplete information." She stood, and her council members rose with her. "Prepare my personal vessel," she commanded. "I will lead a diplomatic mission myself." Gasps echoed around the table. No Valdorian monarch had ever left the safety of their homeworld for a first contact situation. "Your Majesty, this is highly irregular," protested Advisor Laura. "The risk is too great." "The risk of mishandling this encounter is greater," Zerelia replied firmly. "If these are indeed the humans of legend, we must proceed with caution." "General." Krex stepped forward, his posture stiff with disapproval. "At least allow me to accompany you with our full military fleet." Zerelia shook her head. "A show of force may provoke the very conflict we wish to avoid. I will take a single diplomatic vessel with standard defenses. You, General, will remain here to protect our homeworld should this mission fail." The general looked as if he wanted to argue further, but bowed instead. "As you command, Your Majesty." As the council dispersed, Advisor Laura lingered behind. The elder Valdorian approached Zerelia with concern evident in her pale eyes. "You truly believe these could be the humans from the old stories?" she asked quietly. Zerelia glanced toward the window, where the 3 moons now hung high in the night. "Sky, I don't know, but something destroyed our fleet without leaving a trace. Whatever species we're dealing with possesses technology or abilities unlike anything we've encountered before." "The legends say humans are violent and unpredictable," Laura reminded her. "That they fight not just for resources or territory, but for abstract concepts like freedom and love." "The legends also say they are capable of remarkable compassion," Zerelia countered. "That they can form bonds with species entirely unlike themselves. If these are indeed humans, I want to see them with my own eyes before deciding if they are friend or foe." Laura nodded slowly. "May the stars guide your path, my queen." 3 days later, Zerelia stood on the bridge of her diplomatic vessel as it prepared to jump to the coordinates where Commander Zeth's fleet had vanished. The ship was beautiful rather than intimidating, with sweeping crystalline structures that bent light into rainbows throughout the interior. It was designed to inspire awe and admiration, not fear. "All systems ready, Your Majesty," reported the pilot. "Jump coordinates set for the outer rim, Sector 37B. Zerelia took a deep breath. For the first time in centuries, she felt a flutter of what might be nervousness in her chest. If these were truly the humans of legend, this encounter would change the course of Valdorian history forever. "Proceed," she commanded. The stars outside the view screen blurred as the ship entered hyperspace. Zerelia settled into her command chair, the ancient legends playing through her mind. Soon she would know if the stories of human warriors were mere myths or a reality her empire would need to face. For better or worse, the time of legends was ending. The time of truth was about to begin. Captain Lavra Bennett of the Earth Alliance vessel Horizon yawned as she sipped her coffee in the command chair. The patrol mission near the colony on Proxima Centauri B was supposed to be routine. Nothing exciting had happened in this sector for months. The colony was small but growing, with about 5,000 humans now calling the distant planet home. Farmers, scientists, and families looking for a fresh start made up most of the population. "Another quiet day in paradise," said Alan Grant, her first officer, as he checked the sensor readings at his station. Lavra nodded and was about to respond when the ship's alarm suddenly blared. "Captain, unknown vessel approaching at high speed," called out Susan Lee from the tactical station. It just appeared out of nowhere, nothing like I've ever seen before. Lavra put down her coffee and straightened in her chair. On screen, The main view screen flickered to life, showing what appeared to be a massive crystalline structure moving through space. It seemed to bend the light around it, creating rainbow patterns that shifted and changed. It was beautiful, but the size alone made it threatening. The ship was at least 20 times larger than the horizon. "Scan it," Lavra ordered, keeping her voice calm despite the sudden racing of her heart. "Material composition unknown," Susan reported, her fingers moving quickly over her console. "Energy readings off the charts. No match in our database." Laura took a deep breath. This was first contact protocol, something every Earth Alliance captain trained for, but few ever experienced. Open communications on all frequencies. Standard greeting package. As her communications officer worked, Lavra activated the ship-wide system. "All hands to battle stations. This is not a drill." The crew moved with practiced efficiency. Weapon systems powered up, shields activated, and emergency protocols engaged. Lavra didn't want to fight, but she wouldn't be caught unprepared. "Message sent, Captain," the communications officer reported. "No response yet?" Minutes passed in tense silence as the alien vessel drew closer. It had slowed its approach, but still moved with purpose toward their position. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission," the communications officer suddenly announced. "Visual and audio. It's like nothing I've ever seen." "Put it through," Lavra ordered. The screen changed to show a being unlike any human had encountered before. The creature had iridescent scales covering its face, and what appeared to be a crown-like structure extending from its skull. Its eyes were large and golden, with vertical pupils that narrowed as it studied the human crew. Despite the alien features, Lavra could see intelligence in those eyes, and perhaps curiosity. The alien spoke, but the sounds were impossible for human vocal cords to replicate clicks, hums, and tones that rose and fell in complex patterns. "Run it through the translation matrix," Lavra ordered. After a moment, the computer began to translate, the alien's words coming through in slightly delayed English. "I am Queen Zerilia of the Valdorian Empire. We come in peace, seeking knowledge." Of your kind, Lavra stood, straightening her uniform. "I am Captain Lavra Bennett of the Earth Alliance vessel Horizon. We welcome peaceful contact." The alien queen's head tilted slightly. "You are human?" "Yes," Lavra confirmed. "We represent Earth and its colonies." The queen was silent for a moment, those golden eyes studying Lavra with increased intensity. "For generations, my people have told stories of humans, warriors of legendary strength and resilience. Yet you appear fragile." Lara wasn't sure if she should be offended or amused. "Appearances can be deceiving, Your Majesty. We've survived and thrived despite many challenges." "Indeed," the Queen replied. "Your vessel destroyed a fleet of my most advanced ships without leaving a trace." Lavra frowned, confusion evident on her face. "There must be a mistake. We've had no hostile encounters with any species matching your description." Before the Queen could respond, a new alarm sounded on the Horizon's bridge. "Captain, 3 more ships approaching fast," Susan called out. "Earth Alliance signatures." "It's Commander Reeves and the Defense Fleet." Lavra felt a knot form in her stomach. John Reeves was known for his aggressive tactics and his distrust of non-human species. His brother had been killed during a misunderstanding with the first alien species humans had encountered, and that loss had hardened him. "Open a channel to Commander Reeves," Lavra ordered quickly. "Channel open." "Commander Reeves, this is Captain Bennett. We are engaged in first contact protocol with a peaceful alien delegation. Stand down and maintain distance." John Reeves' face appeared on a secondary screen. He was in his 50s with close-cropped gray hair and hard eyes that had seen too much conflict. "Captain Bennett, Our long-range sensors detected an alien vessel 20 times the size of your ship. We're coming to your assistance. No assistance needed, Commander, Lavra insisted. Queen Zyrelia of the Valdorians has approached peacefully. We are establishing diplomatic. They're powering weapons. Susan shouted suddenly. Laura's head snapped back to the main screen. Queen Zyrelia, we mean no harm. Please, it is not us, the Queen replied, alarm evident in her voice, despite the translator's flat tone. We have activated no weapon systems. Lavra understood too late. Commander Reeves, stand down. They are not. The screen exploded with light as Reeves' ships opened fire on the Valdorian vessel. The crystalline structure absorbed the first barrage but began to crack under the second. Stop firing. Lavra shouted into the comm. That's an order. The Queen's image flickered as her ship took damage. Is this how humans answer peaceful contact? With betrayal? This is a mistake, Lara pleaded. Commander Reeves is acting against orders. But the Queen's image disappeared as the Valdorian ship suddenly shifted, its damaged crystalline structure realigning. Before anyone could react, it vanished in a flash of light that temporarily blinded the sensors. They've gone, Susan reported. Some kind of faster-than-light jump we've never seen before. Commander Reeves' ships moved into formation around the horizon. Captain Bennett, Reeves said, his voice cold. You will report to Earth Command immediately to explain why you are having a friendly chat with an alien battleship in striking distance of our colony. Laura's hands clenched into fists at her sides. You've just initiated hostilities with an unknown species, Commander. A species that commands an empire spanning 3 galaxies, according to their queen. For the first time, uncertainty flickered across Reeves' face. Their queen? He repeated. Yes, Commander. You just fired on the royal vessel of Queen Zyrelia of the Valdorian Empire. Lavra took a deep breath, trying to control her anger. And based on what she said before your unprovoked attack, they believe we already destroyed one of their fleets. The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. First contact had been established, and it had gone catastrophically wrong. If the legends the Queen mentioned were any indication, the Valdorians already feared humans. Now they had reason to hate them too. Send a message to Earth Command, Lavra ordered her communications officer. Priority 1. Inform them we have made first contact with a spacefaring civilization called the Valdorians, and that we may have just started a war. As Commander Reeves' face disappeared from the screen, Lavra looked out at the stars where the Queen's ship had been. She couldn't help but wonder what stories the Valdorians would tell about humans now. No longer legends, but a very real threat. Queen Zyrelia stood before the Grand Council, her normally perfect posture slightly bent from exhaustion. Her royal vessel had barely escaped the human attack, limping back to Valdorian space with severe damage. 3 of her crew had died when a section of the ship broke apart. The memory of those deaths weighed heavily on her. The humans fired without provocation, she told the assembled council members. I had established peaceful communication with their captain when their warships arrived and attacked. General Krex stepped forward, his eyes gleaming with the satisfaction of being proven right. Just as I warned, Your Majesty. These humans are dangerous and cannot be trusted. Zyrelia sank into her throne, feeling the weight of her mistake. Perhaps you were right, General. I should have heeded your advice. What matters now is our response, said Advisor Laura. The humans have shown their true nature. We must act decisively. The council chamber erupted in voices, all calling for war. Zyrelia closed her eyes, thinking of the human captain. Lavra Bennett had seemed reasonable, even friendly. There had been confusion in her eyes when Zyrelia mentioned the destroyed Valdorian fleet. Something didn't add up. Silence, Zyrelia commanded, and the room immediately quieted. Before we commit our empire to war, we must be certain of all facts. Captain Bennett denied any knowledge of our missing fleet. Of course she would deny it, General Krex scoffed. Humans are known for their deception. Known by whom? Zyrelia challenged. By legends thousands of years old? We know nothing of these humans except what ancient stories tell us. The general's scales darkened with anger. We know they attacked our queen without provocation. That is fact enough. Zyrelia couldn't argue with that. She had seen the aggression firsthand. Yet something still troubled her about the encounter. I will consider our options, she said finally. This council is dismissed until tomorrow. As the council members filed out, General Krex lingered. Once they were alone, he approached her throne. Your Majesty, with respect, this is not a time for contemplation. The humans have drawn first blood. If we do not respond, they will see it as weakness. Zyrelia studied the general. He had served her faithfully for nearly a century, but she had always sensed his desire for glory in battle. You will take no action without my explicit command, she said firmly. Is that understood, General? He bowed stiffly. Of course, Your Majesty. After he left, Zyrelia returned to her private chambers. She opened the ancient book of legends again, searching for any clue about these humans that might explain their behavior. 3 days passed with the council growing increasingly impatient. Then the news arrived that changed everything. Your Majesty. A messenger burst into her chambers without ceremony. General Krex has launched an attack on the human colony. Zyrelia rose from her desk, shock evident on her face. Without my authorization? He claimed new intelligence suggested an imminent human attack. He took 5 warships to the colony called Proxima Centauri. Fury filled Zyrelia's body, making her scales shimmer with heat. Bring me to the command center immediately. By the time Zyrelia reached the military command center, the attack was already underway. On the large view screen, she could see Valdorian ships firing on small settlement structures on the planet's surface. Stop this at once, she commanded. The communications officer looked up nervously. Your Majesty, General Krex has blocked our signals. He's not responding to commands. Zyrelia watched in horror as buildings exploded under Valdorian fire. These weren't military targets. They were homes, farms, places where civilians lived. Prepare. My personal shuttle, she ordered. I will stop this myself. Your Majesty, it's too dangerous. Advisor Laura protested, having followed her to the command center. This attack was not authorized, Zyrelia said through clenched teeth. I will not allow the general to start a war in my name. But before she could leave, the screen showed something unexpected. The Valdorian ships had stopped firing and appeared to be in disarray. One of them suddenly exploded in a ball of fire. What's happening? Zyrelia demanded. Unknown, Your Majesty, the tactical officer replied. The humans appear to be fighting back, but we can't detect their weapons. Over the next hour, Zyrelia watched in disbelief as General Krex's mighty warships were systematically disabled or destroyed. Finally, a transmission came through. Patch it through, she ordered. The screen showed General Krex, his scales pale. With fear, blood trickling from a wound on his head. Your Majesty, he gasped. The humans ... They are everywhere and nowhere. They have no proper weapons, yet they've destroyed 3 of our ships and disabled the others. They move like shadows, using the environment against us. One of them, a male human, he's leading them. He's unstoppable. The transmission cut off abruptly. Zyrelia stood in stunned silence. The legends had spoken of human adaptability, of their ability to turn anything into a weapon, of their fierce protection of their territory. Now she was seeing it firsthand. Get me any visual data from the planet's surface, she ordered, The screen changed to show grainy footage from a Valdorian ground unit. The image showed a human male, covered in dirt and blood, his face set in grim determination. He wore no military uniform, just simple clothes now torn and dirty. In his hands was some kind of modified farming tool, fashioned into a weapon. Around him, other humans moved with purpose, using the landscape for cover as they attacked the Valdorian forces. "Who is that?" Zyrelia asked. The intelligence officer checked the data. According to colony records, his name is Steve Collins. He was a farmer. Was? His dwelling was among the first hit in the attack. His mate and offspring were killed. Zyrelia felt a chill run through her body. The legends had spoken of this too, how human grief could transform into something terrible and unstoppable. "The reports coming in say he organized the colonists within minutes of our attack," the officer continued. "He seems to know exactly where to strike, how to use our technology against us." As Zyrelia watched, a human named Steve looked directly at the camera. His eyes held no fear, only a cold determination that made even her, a queen of a mighty empire, feel afraid. "Get a message to any surviving ships," she ordered. "Tell them to retreat immediately. No more attacks without my direct order." "And General Krex?" Advisor Laura asked. Zyrelia's expression hardened. "If he survives, he will face justice for his disobedience." Later that night, alone in her chambers, Zyrelia reviewed all the footage from the failed attack. She studied the human named Steve Collins, trying to understand how a simple farmer could defeat Valdorian warships. The legends had not exaggerated about human warriors. If anything, they had failed to capture the full truth. She needed to understand these humans better. And to do that, she needed to meet this warrior face to face. Not as enemies, but in a way that might prevent further bloodshed. Zyrelia made her decision. She would attempt one more diplomatic mission. This time, she would request to meet with Captain Lavra Bennett again, and the human warrior who had changed everything. Captain Lavra Bennett stood on the bridge of the horizon, watching the stars streak by as her ship traveled at maximum speed toward Proxima Centauri. The distress call had come 3 hours ago. The colony was under attack by alien forces, same crystalline ships she had encountered. Her heart felt heavy with the knowledge that Commander Reeves' rash actions had led to this. "Time to arrival?" she asked her navigator. 30 minutes, Captain," he replied. Lavra nodded, trying to prepare herself for what they might find. Early reports indicated heavy casualties among the colonists. She had already sent word to Earth Command, but reinforcements would take days to arrive. The horizon was the only help the colony could expect for now. "Captain, we're receiving a new transmission from the colony," her communications officer called out. "Put it through," Lavra ordered. The voice that came through was tired but steady. "This is Steve Collins at Proxima Colony. The alien ships have retreated. We've taken heavy losses, but we're holding on. We have prisoners." Laura's eyebrows shot up in surprise. "Prisoners? You captured alien soldiers?" "Yes, Captain. And one of them claims to be important. Keeps talking about being a general or something. He's injured, but alive." Lavra couldn't believe what she was hearing. The colonists were farmers and scientists, not soldiers. How had they managed to not only drive off an alien attack, but also capture enemy combatants? "We'll be there soon, Mr. Collins. Secure the prisoners but treat their wounds. That's an order." "Understood, Captain." When the horizon arrived at Proxima Centauri, Laura was shocked by the destruction visible from orbit. Large sections of the colony had been reduced to rubble. Fires still burned in some areas. Her shuttle landed in a clearing near what remained of the colony's main administrative building. Steve Collins met her as she stepped off the shuttle. He was a tall man with broad shoulders. dressed in dirty work clothes stained with what appeared to be both human and alien blood. His face was streaked with soot, and a makeshift bandage covered his left arm. Despite his rough appearance, he stood straight and addressed her with clear authority. "Captain Bennett, thank you for coming." Laura shook his hand. "Mr. Collins, I understand you led the defense of the colony." Steve's face hardened. "Someone had to. The aliens attacked without warning. They hit the residential area first." Lavra heard the pain in his voice. "I'm sorry for your losses." "My wife and daughter were in our home when it was hit," he said simply, the words factual, but his eyes revealing depths of pain. There was nothing left to bury. Lavra didn't know what to say. Words seemed inadequate in the face of such loss. "The prisoners are this way," Steve said, changing the subject. "We're keeping them in the medical facility." As they walked through the devastated colony, Lavra saw the colonists working to rebuild. Many were injured, but all were busy. Some nodded respectfully to Steve as he passed. It was clear he had earned their trust during the attack. "How did you manage to fight off their ships?" Lavra asked. "The aliens have technology far beyond ours." Steve's expression was grim. "We had no choice but to improvise. I worked in mining before becoming a farmer. I know explosives. We modified the colony's mining charges and targeted their ships' weak points, used the environment to our advantage. The aliens didn't expect us to fight back, and they certainly didn't expect us to win." In the medical facility, Lavra found the alien general secured to a bed. His iridescent scales were dull with injury, and his breathing seemed labored. A human doctor was treating a wound on his side. "He says his name is General Krex," Steve explained. "Claims he's some big shot in their empire." The alien's eyes focused on Lara, recognition evident in them. "You?" he said, his words translated by a device one of the colonists had rigged up. "The human captain who spoke with our queen." "Yes," Lavra confirmed. "I'm Captain Lavra Bennett of the Earth Alliance." "Why did you attack this colony?" "We had established peaceful contact with your queen." The general made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Peaceful? Your ships fired on our queen's vessel without provocation." This was a justified response. "That was a misunderstanding," Lavra insisted. "Commander Reeves acted against orders." "And I acted against my queen's wishes," the general admitted unexpectedly. "She did not authorize this attack." Laura and Steve exchanged surprised glances. "So both our peoples have those who would choose." "War over understanding," Lavra said quietly. Before the general could respond, a colonist burst into the room. "Captain, another alien ship has entered orbit. It's broadcasting a message." Lavra hurried back outside and looked up. In the sky above the colony, a small crystalline vessel hovered, different from the warships that had attacked. It glittered in the sunlight, casting rainbow patterns on the ground below. "What's it saying?" she asked the colonist with the communications equipment. "It's requesting permission to land. Says it carries Queen Zerelia on a diplomatic mission." Lavra felt a mix of hope and apprehension. This could be a chance to stop the conflict before it escalated further, or it could be a trap. Steve stood beside her, his face hard. "We should shoot it down while we have the chance." "No," Lavra said firmly. "If the Queen is coming in peace, this may be our only opportunity to prevent full-scale war." "They killed my family," Steve said, his voice tight with anger. "They killed hundreds of innocent people." Lavra turned to face him directly. "And if we kill their queen, they'll kill thousands more. This has to stop somewhere, Mr. Collins." Steve's jaw clenched, but after a long moment, he nodded. "But if this is a trick, I won't hesitate." "Understood," Lavra said. She turned to the colonist with the communications equipment. "Tell them they have permission to land, but only the Queen and Han." 2 guards may exit the ship. The alien vessel descended gracefully, landing in the same clearing where Laura's shuttle had touched down. The colony's defenders took up positions, makeshift weapons at the ready. Steve stood at the front, his modified farming tool in his hands. This ship's door opened, and Queen Zerelia emerged, flanked by 2 guards. She wore no armor, only flowing robes that shimmered with the same iridescent quality as her scales. She looked around at the devastation, her expression unreadable to human eyes. Her gaze settled on Lavra first, then moved to Steve. Something in her posture changed when she saw him, a slight straightening, a new tension. "Captain Bennett," she said, her words translated by a device one of her guards carried. "We meet again under unfortunate circumstances." "Queen Zerelia," Lavra replied with a respectful nod. "Your general led an attack on our colony without provocation." "Without authorization," Zerelia corrected. "General Krex acted against my direct orders. For that, he will face justice among our people." The Queen's eyes moved back to Steve, studying him with intense curiosity. "And you must be the human warrior who defeated my general's forces." Steve stood tall, meeting her gaze without fear. "I'm just a farmer. But your ships killed my family and threatened my home. I did what was necessary." Queen Zerelia took a step toward him, causing her guards to tense. In our ancient legends, human warriors were said to find strength in loss, to fight with unmatched ferocity when defending their homes. For generations, my people believed these were mere stories. She paused, her golden eyes still fixed on Steve. Now I see the reality standing before me. Silence hung in the air as Queen Zerelia and Steve Collins looked at each other. Around them, humans and Valdorians alike watched with bated breath. The fate of both species might depend on what happened next. "May we speak in private, Captain?" "Bennett and Mr. Collins?" Queen Zerelia asked. "What must be said should be heard by leaders first." Lavra glanced at Steve, who gave a short nod. "We can use what's left of the colony administration building," Lavra suggested. "Your guards and our security can wait outside." The Queen agreed, and soon the 3 of them sat in a small conference room. Half of the ceiling was missing, letting in the pink-tinged light of Proxima Centauri. Dust and debris covered the floor, evidence of the recent attack. "First, I must offer my deepest regret for what has happened here," Queen Zerelia began. "General Krex acted against my direct command. This attack was not sanctioned by the Valdorian Empire." Steve's face remained hard. "That doesn't bring back the dead." "No," the Queen acknowledged. "Nothing can undo what has been done. But we stand at a crossroads. What happens next will determine whether more die needlessly." Lara leaned forward. "What exactly are you proposing, Your Majesty?" "An alliance," the Queen said simply. Both humans looked surprised. "An alliance?" Lara repeated. "After everything that's happened?" Queen Zerelia's scales shimmered slightly as she shifted in her seat. "For generations, my people have told stories of humans, fierce warriors who could achieve the impossible. Some viewed these legends with fear, others with respect. None believed they were real." She looked directly at Steve. "Until now." Steve said nothing, but his grip on his makeshift weapon tightened. "You have shown what humans are capable of," the Queen continued. "A small colony of farmers and scientists defeated 5 of our most advanced warships. One human who lost everything led them to victory using tools not designed for war." "We did what we had to do," Steve said flatly. "Precisely," the Queen nodded. "And that is why I propose an alliance rather than continued conflict." Lavra looked confused. "I don't understand. Why would our victory make you want an alliance?" Queen Zerelia's expression became grave. "Because there is an enemy coming that threatens us all. An ancient race we call the Nexus Horde. They have destroyed countless civilizations, moving from galaxy to galaxy like a plague. Our long-range scouts detected their approach 3 days ago. And you expect us to believe this? Convenient threat? Steve asked skeptically. The Queen reached into her robes and placed a small crystal on the table. It projected a three-dimensional image of massive ships, unlike either human or Valdorian design. They moved in perfect formation, hundreds of them, destroying everything in their path. This footage is from a system at the edge of our territory, the Queen explained. That system no longer exists. The Horde consumed it entirely. Lavra studied the projection with growing concern. Even if this is true, why come to us? Your empire spans 3 galaxies. Surely you have the forces to fight them. We have tried. Before, Queen Zyrelia said, her voice heavy with memory. Centuries ago, the Horde entered our home galaxy. We fought with everything we had. We lost millions before driving them back into deep space. We thought they were gone forever. She looked at Steve again. But now they return, and our scientists believe they have evolved. Our weapons may no longer be effective against them. We need something the Horde has never encountered before. Humans, Steve said, understanding dawning on his face. Yes, the Queen confirmed. Your adaptability, your creativity in battle, your ability to turn anything into a weapon, these are qualities the Horde has never faced. Combined with our technology, we might stand a chance. Lavra and Steve exchanged glances. How do we know this isn't some trick? Steve asked. How do we know you won't turn on us once the supposed threat is dealt with? The Queen was quiet for a moment. Then she did something unexpected. She removed a decorated medallion from around her neck and placed it on the table. This contains the genetic code of the Valdorian royal line My Genetic Code. It also contains the activation sequences for our weapon systems. She pushed it toward Steve. With this, you could wipe out our entire species if we betrayed you. Lavra looked shocked. You would trust us with something so valuable? Trust must begin somewhere, Queen Zyrelia said simply. I choose to begin it here. Steve stared at the medallion, but didn't pick it up. His eyes, which had been hard with anger since the Queen arrived, now showed conflict. My wife used to say that the measure of a person isn't what they do when things are easy, he said quietly. It's what they choose when things are hard. He looked up at the Queen. She was a scientist. She believed in understanding before judgment. 4. The first time, pain showed clearly on his face. She would want me to listen, to try for peace, even when every part of me wants revenge. Queen Zyrelia bowed her head slightly. Your mate was wise. My own mother taught me that a true ruler must sometimes set aside personal feelings for the greater good. I'll need to consult. With Earth Command, Lara said. This isn't a decision I can make alone. Of course, the Queen agreed. But be aware, the Horde moves quickly. We have perhaps 2 of your Earth weeks before they reach populated systems. As they prepared to leave the room, a thunderous noise shook the building. They rushed outside to see the sky filled with ships not Valdorian crystal vessels or human. Ships, but the same dark, angular craft from the Queen's projection. They're here already, Queen Zyrelia whispered, horror evident in her voice. The projection must have been delayed. They move faster than we thought possible. The colony's warning sirens began to wail. People ran for shelter as the massive ships descended toward the planet. Captain Bennett, a communications officer, ran up to them. We're receiving reports of similar ships appearing throughout human space. Earth is under attack. Lara turned to Queen Zyrelia. Your ships are also being attacked, the Queen finished, listening to reports from her own guards. The Horde must have been watching, waiting for our peoples to fight each other. They saw their opportunity. Steve looked up at the approaching enemy, then at the devastated colony around him. He had already lost everything that mattered to him personally. But there were still people to protect, a future to fight for. He turned to Queen Zerelia. "You said your technology combined with our adaptability might give us a chance." The Queen nodded. Steve picked up the medallion she had offered earlier and handed it back to her. "Then we don't have time to wait for official alliances. We need to fight now, together." Queen Zerelia accepted the medallion, understanding the trust being offered. "My ship has weapons your people could use." Lavra nodded decisively. "I'll contact the Horizon. We'll coordinate a defense with whatever we have." As the three leaders hurried toward the Queen's ship, colonists and Valdorian guards alike fell. In behind them, former enemies now united against a common threat. Steve looked at the farmer who had handed him a tool during the battle against the Valdorians. "Ted, remember how we modified the mining charges to penetrate their crystal ships?" Ted nodded. "We'd need something much stronger for these new ships." "The Horizon has photon torpedoes," Lavra offered. "And my ship carries quantum disruptors," Queen Zerelia added. Steve's eyes lit up with the beginning of a plan. If we could combine them somehow, ... As they reached the Queen's ship, the first Horde vessel opened fire on the colony. The ground shook, and buildings already damaged by G. The previous attack began to collapse. Queen Zerelia turned to face Steve and Lavra. "The legends of human warriors that I grew up with never mentioned one crucial detail," she said. "They never spoke of your capacity to forgive, to set aside hatred for the greater good. Perhaps that is your greatest strength of all." Steve looked at the Queen, then at the enemy ships filling the sky. "We'll have time for philosophy later. Right now, we have a fight to win." The three of them entered the Queen's ship, already discussing battle plans. Outside, humans and Valdorians worked side by side, preparing for the coming fight. Former enemies had become allies in the span of minutes, united by the most powerful force in the universe, the will to survive. And as the first combined, human Valdorian weapons fired at the Horde ships. A new legend began to take shape, one that would be told among the stars for generations to come.